You're listening to the Packernet Podcast Network.
US Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why US Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from US Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
Your NFL Sundays are about to get a whole lot more magical. When you bundle NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV, you get the most live NFL games all in one place. And with Multiview, you can watch up to 4 games at once, so you can catch all the action right from the comfort of home. Watch every game every Sunday on NFL Sunday Ticket and YouTube TV. Sign up now at youtube.com/Sunday Ticket. Device and content restrictions apply. Local and national games on YouTube TV. NFL Sunday Ticket for out-of-market games excludes digital-only games.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident panelist, as always, Ryan Schlip. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_dad. Well, I don't want to spend the entire time speaking about Packers Family Night. Hopefully you had a chance yesterday to come hang out. We did a live stream on social medias and whatnot. Just kind of running through my thoughts, I guess, position by position and whatnot. I think it was probably Christian Watson's best day. If I had to kind of, obviously we haven't been able to see everything, so I don't know exactly what's been going on, but I haven't heard a ton from Christian Watson through all of camp. And just the connection between Jordan Love and Christian Watson is phenomenal. Really is one of the best pass and catch moments of the day, probably a 30, 40-yard touchdown pass from Jordan Love to Christian Watson with Jair Alexander in about as tight a coverage as you're ever going to find, but with the perfect placement and just the height advantage and all that kind of stuff that Christian has, it was basically just an unstoppable pass. Romeo Doubs also had a fantastic day. He continues essentially to be that dude. Really, the receivers all in all did a very good job. Some kind of not super great catches. You could maybe put a little on the quarterbacks or whatever, but most of that was down the line a little bit. Some of the, I don't want to pick on anyone specifically because I don't remember exactly who it was, but like Joel Wilson, the tight end, Ben Sims, the tight end, some of the guys a little further down the line. But as far as Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, Bo Melton, Dontavian Wicks, even Malik Heath, I thought did really well. Grant DuBose, I think, might have had a drop in there somewhere, but otherwise really kind of showed out. Musgrave had a couple decent receptions mixed in there. The running backs, once again, had nowhere to run. It was actually cool to be able to see it. Dillon especially, he did have one run that went for somewhere. The blocking was good enough for him to go, but I further solidified my belief that Dillon is not going to be a major part of the offense. And I don't mean that in terms of his snap counts, because I don't know what the Packers' plans are. And as much as I still want Dillon to have a fantastic year, I just struggle with it. The way that he moves, he's a little bit... Everything just feels a little slower. Everybody else, and we know that about Dillon, he's not the fastest, twitchiest guy, but it just feels so like he's running in sand. Even the decent run that he had, you just felt like why didn't you make that cut a full second ago? I don't know. Something about it just doesn't quite feel right. Everybody else looked good. Ellis Merriweather, I think, had a pretty big run. Emmanuel Wilson had a big run. So there's some decent plays in there. But for the most part, the defense absolutely dominated the offensive line and the offense. I know a lot was said about Jordan Morgan looking really good. I don't know for sure if that was the situation. I watched him on a handful of plays. He looked fine in all of them. But again, on an every snap basis, I could not really tell you. Overall, again, the defensive line certainly won the day, or the defense as a whole. A lot of it was you got blitzing linebackers, you got blitzing corners. I think you had, I know one of the plays was Eric Wilson. He didn't get a sack, but he was right in Sean Clifford's face. And Clifford actually, that was probably one of the best plays he's had in camp, I would guess. pressure right in his face. It got picked up, I believe, by Emmanuel Wilson. The blitz did. Clifford rolls to his right and actually delivers a really nice ball to complete it and move it down. But just the defense is so suffocating every second. There was a corner blitz. I don't remember exactly who from, but somebody ended up catching a quarterback from behind. Obviously, he didn't tackle him, but just nonstop, over and over and over. These guys are just attacking. But as far as the quarterbacks go, Jordan Love, I thought, had a fantastic day. I think the only observation that I have, having watched it, is for the most part, he's got everything down. I mean, the timing and the rhythm with his guys is great. His ability to read and react quickly. I mean, again, the reason he's so much more successful and the gap between him and Clifford, for example, is so stark is because in order to be able to play against this defense, you have to be able to react fast. You have to know this offense inside and out. You need to know exactly where people are going to be and when they're going to be there. And if you don't, you're going to panic and either throw a pick or throw a check down, and there was a lot of that from Clifford, who I thought had a decent enough day. There were no interceptions, I don't believe. There was one dropped that probably should have been picked, I believe, by Bullard. But plenty of hands-on balls as far as tips and pass breakups. A couple of them could have probably been intercepted, but none actually were. But Jordan Love, his ability to just not panic and go through the progression and get the ball out in time is really a massive benefit against a defense like this. Clifford, again, I think was better. He showed a lot that I don't know has been seen, and he didn't throw any interceptions. But with that said, I still think he was potentially the worst quarterback of the group. Michael Pratt was phenomenal. I'm not just saying that to be, braggadocious about my guy. He just really was. He was fantastic. He even got an opportunity, I believe, with the twos at one point. It's hard to tell exactly what unit is out there. They don't always go in order, but I believe that they called out that it was the twos that were going to go out, and it was Michael Pratt at quarterback, and he led a drive right down the field. And then they pulled him and put in Jacob Eason. Not entirely sure why. I'm guessing they just want to get the 3s and 4s more snaps without giving them full drives. So Pratt took over in the beginning, drove right down the field. They put Eason in. I think the drive stalled out at that point. But Pratt continues to just be a phenomenal quarterback, in my opinion. I mean, he really is talented. And of all the quarterbacks, the only guys that were really able to drive the ball down the field, I think, consistently were Jordan Love and Michael Pratt, which, again, is very difficult to do with this defense that just generates constant pressure and then playing a lot of man coverage. So it's very difficult, especially when you're not just picking apart little holes in the zone that you know are going to be there. You don't know who's open, when they're going to come open, and then, so it's one of those things where you have to throw it fast, and you probably got to throw it right on time and very accurately because there's a guy running at his heels. On the defensive side, and I'll get into more specifics in a minute, but just as far as my particular observations, I think a lot of people were kind of picking on Jair. I don't think he ever had bad coverage on any play. It's just several times the ball was just too money. He couldn't quite get there. He did have a big pass breakup at the end, basically to end practice, which pretty solid redeeming situation. It was also a almost scuffle because of Jair. Jair doesn't care if it's family night or not. He's not going to be denied anything. There was a pass, I want to say it was to Heath maybe, or possibly Hicks, one of the two. And they're trying to get a touchdown. He not only stopped the touchdown, but he drove him straight out of bounds. I don't remember if he was able to get the ball out of his hands or not, but he drove him straight out of bounds. The receiver was really not happy about it. They started jawing at each other. But, I know it's family night and everything, but still, I always appreciate that about Jair. Notice Van Ness a handful of times. I know Ford had a really big play. I believe it was in the tackling period, so there was one tackling period, and Ford was just able to get straight up the middle and hit somebody. Somebody in the comments section made the comment that he got hit by a Ford truck, which I'm surprised nobody's come up with that yet, although what opportunities have there been? Ford's never done anything. And then I thought the entire special teams thing, and we'll get more into special teams in a minute because I found a video of them kind of breaking that down, so I'll kind of provide a little bit more commentary, but it was fun to see the kickoff. It was kind of enlightening to kind of get an idea of how it's going to go and everything, kind of provide some further insights in terms of the way that I'm viewing things. The kicking I thought was more or less pretty solid. I know at the very end they had both kickers try to make a 57-yarder. Anders Carlson made it, but they called a timeout to ice him and he missed the second one. So that was frustrating because it would have been cool to have him just crush a 57-yarder. On top of that, Greg Joseph missed the 57-yarder. So for Andres to kind of have his one bad day of camp, I think he was like 2 of 6 or something. If he was able to follow that up by beating Joseph and hitting a 57-yarder, that would have been pretty cool. But let me go through this real quick. So I do have some specifics. These are not exact stats. These are observations that people made. There's probably going to be some plays that were missed or whatever, but just to give a general idea of how it went. So Jordan Love, they had down for 10 completions and 4 touchdowns. The 10 completions went to Watson, Wicks, Reed, Sims, Musgrave, Dillon, and 4 completions to Romeo Doubs. And this, by the way, is extremely important. I went on a NFC North roundtable show a couple days ago or whatever, and they wanted to know from a fantasy perspective who to highlight. Of course, I have absolutely no idea. There doesn't seem to be any agreement anywhere. I lean toward Watson. You know my thoughts on him, but there's the injury concerns and everything else, plus the limited targets probably is going to be a little bit lesser, but you get the touchdowns, the big completions, etc., whatever. The big thing for Doubs, though, is that is Jordan's number one wide receiver. There's no doubt in my mind. His guy is Doubs. It's always been Doubs. He respects Doubs. I think they've done the most work together. I think Doubs has the strongest work ethic, which I think is an underrated attribute of Jordan Love. He's such an understated guy, but I think he's very similar to Doubs in that he is an absolute psychopath when it comes to work. And we've heard many people talk about that. We know what he does in the offseason. I think Doubs has been with him in the offseason more so than anybody else. Doubs is probably our best red zone threat. There's no doubt in my mind who the wide receiver one is in Jordan's mind. And although I'm trusting him to not overcompensate and let that become a problem where you're force-feeding a guy that's not open, I think all things being equal, Doubs is his favorite target, his number one target. On top of that, 4 touchdowns were listed. 1 of them to Watson, the other 3 went to Doubs, including back-to-back touchdowns while we were at commercial break. Interceptions, he had 0. Of the notable incompletions that he did have, I don't know the number of incompletions, but he had a high throw to Sims. I think that was one of the ones I mentioned, was really on, or maybe I didn't mention it yet. I don't know. I spent so much time like running through my thoughts in my head. I don't remember what I've said and what I just thought to myself. But the biggest issue with Jordan Love that I observed is, as much as he has grown immensely, and you look at him and just go, I don't have really any concerns about Jordan Love anymore. I mean, we'll have to see which ones emerge that he's going to need to fix. He's got to have some problem somewhere. The one thing I know that came up last year they wanted to work on was having him put a little bit more air under the ball. There are times to throw rocket balls, and then there are times that are not. And one of the worst times to throw a rocket ball is when you have a guy wide open down the field. You want to put some air under it, let him run underneath it, and go catch the ball. And he put that thing just on an absolute rope. And Sims, although catchable, he got his hands up there, it went through his hands, and it just fell incomplete. And honestly, on my perspective, that's more on the quarterback. Yes, you expect guys to make catches, but the way that you get your guys to make more catches than not is to make the balls more catchable. And so that includes making it more accurate. That includes throwing it on time and not late when the defender's able to get there, right? There was several instances. There was a big civil war on my show where I was blaming Jordan Love and people were mad at me. And it's like, bro, when the defender's there and hits the guy, when the defender comes up and punches the ball out and you know, the ball should have been there earlier, I'm putting that on the quarterback. I just am. I think a lot of that has gotten cleaned up. I think it's been a lot better, but I think that's an area where he can continue to improve. We know his completion percentage is not fantastic, and part of that is the receivers. They do have drop issues. I'm not denying that, but I also think that we can not make the situation worse by, inaccurate passes happen once in a while, but that doesn't need to happen. Throwing laser balls to a guy that's wide open is just completely unnecessary. So I'm not trying to overreact to it. I'm just saying I know it was an issue last year, and I'm hoping Jordan keeps that in mind. As I think he gets really excited, and I think he kind of Brett Favre's the thing, because I'm positive Brett Favre did that. That I don't think he knew how to throw anything but a laser in his entire career, but I think he gets excited. He sees a guy open and he tries to just rip it in there. rather than kind of just having that half a second to go, okay, here's how I need to throw that. Anyways, Sean Clifford. Oh, by the way, that's not it. That was a high throw to Sims and then deflected by Kenny Clark and then incomplete screen pass. So those are 3 of the notable incompletions. Not sure how many total there were. Sean Clifford had 6 completions, according to things that were notable at least. Heath, Melton, Turay, Hicks, and 2 passes went to Wilson. And no, that is not the famed Emmanuel Wilson. That is Joel Wilson, the tight end. So the top target for QB2, apparently, is tight end Joel Wilson. So suppose keep that in mind. With Tyler Davis and Tucker Kraft not really participating at this point, you got Musgrave, Ben Sims, and Joel Wilson. I mean, I'm not expecting him to do much, but it couldn't hurt to end up getting the most targets for the number 2 team. He didn't have any touchdowns or interceptions. Notable incompletions. He had a pass to DeBose that was broken up by Quay. I think there was another one that didn't show up on the TV, but was a really great play by Quay. It's kind of an underrated attribute, or I shouldn't say underrated. I think his rookie year, we all thought Quay is a really good cover guy. It's just everything else that's kind of lacking. Year 2, I think maybe he was just kind of mediocre across the board. But he has some coverage chops, man. He has that ability, so I'm excited to see if that continues. He had a near interception by Rochelle. That's the one I was thinking of. The Bullard one was a tip pass, I think, toward the end zone. The near interception was Rochelle. That one definitely should have been picked. And then he had a drop by Hicks and confusion on the play call leading to time loss. Don't see any other quarterback notes here. Some other ones. Let's go through defensive player highlights. Jair Alexander had 2 pass breakups, both of them against Dobbs. He had the one pass that was to Heath where he forced him out of the end zone. That was the one that almost erupted into a fight. And then coverage highlights, blanket coverage on Dobbs and Wicks. Presumably those were both receptions. I know the one to Watson, as I said, was blanket coverage, but it ended up being a touchdown. Dobbs and Wicks one I don't know, but I don't know why you mention blanket coverage if you could just say pass breakup. Rashawn Gary was listed as having 2 sacks on the day. One of those times at least was against Telfort, and another one was a sack of Love. Don't know who he got up against. And then he had multiple pressures, one of them leading to a throwaway by Love. So Rashawn Gary was just having himself a day out there. Kalen King, that's who it was. Kalen King had the sack. So Kalen King, I mentioned somebody came off the corner and got a sack. It was Kalen King. King, I thought, had a really good day. He did get a little handsy. I know at one point there should have been a flag, but wasn't. That's kind of his style. He's very aggressive, but he had 1 sack against Clifford. He had a pass breakup against Hicks, and he had a near interception against Bo Melton. I remain a Kalen King fan. I do not think he's going to be a starter this year. I don't know if we even see him play, but I am excited for what Kalen King can do and the continued development. Bullard had 4 pass breakups, 4 of them. I knew he had a good day. I didn't know it was that good. 4 pass breakups against Sims, Stanley, Samori Toure, and Jaden Reed. He had an immediate stop on Samori Toure and a near interception on Love's bullet pass. Yeah, that narrows it down. And then Quay Walker had his 1 pass breakup. And then I don't know if it was a separate pass deflection from Love. There must have been, because the other one was on Clifford. So he had essentially 2 pass breakups, 1 from Clifford, 1 from Love. On the day, Romeo Dobbs, in total, 5 receptions, 3 touchdowns. One of them, he boxed out Jair for a nice completion. Christian Watson, 2 receptions, 2 touchdowns. Luke Musgrave noted as having 1 reception. He beat Coyle, which isn't saying a ton. Jaden Reed, 2 receptions, 1 touchdown. He was open in the back of the end zone for a touchdown against Nixon. Deep catch against Kalen King. Marshawn Lloyd had 2 runs, not really sure how many yards, probably almost none. No touchdowns. Caleb Jones was noted as running with the 1s at right tackle, so that's good to see. I'm excited about that. Anders Carlson was 2 for 2, but he did miss that 57-yarder again. Again, he made it and then he missed it the second time around, but his total field goals, I believe, for camp are listed at 28 of 34. I believe, I'll have to double check that. Greg Joseph is listed as 2 of 2, but he did miss the 57-yarder, so that must not be included in here. He's listed at 32 of 34, call it 32 of 35, but the 32 of 34 is 94.1%, so he's having a great camp. Couple other notes. Top performers for offense: Jordan Love, Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. Improvement areas: the screen game, timing accuracy, and execution. Obviously, that's been a problem. Defensive top performers: Jair Alexander's 2 pass breakups, Rashawn Gary's 2 sacks, Bullard's 4 pass breakups, Kalen King's sack and a pass breakup, Quay Walker's pass breakups. Special teams: both kickers performed about the same. No super need for highlights there. So yeah, that's what I've got as far as at least observed things that happened. I'm sure some of that is maybe incorrect. Some of the numbers are more so that some of the things got missed. I know as far as the nets are concerned, quarterbacks thrown into the nets, I think every quarterback except Jordan made 1. Jordan ended up making 2. So Jordan did lead, but everybody else at least got their 1. Let's see what else happened out there. Snap counts from Family Night. Somebody else tracked this on Reddit. Romeo Doubs, 21. Christian Watson, 19. Jaden Reed, 16. Dontavian Wicks, 6. Bo Melton, 5. Grant DeBose, 2. And then he wrote, and I'm guessing this is with Jordan, because below that he wrote, the biggest surprise here by far is that receiver Dontavian Wicks, who caught on the second half of the 2023 season, only got 6 reps with Jordan Love on Family Night. Previous reports from training camp claimed he has been on a 4-man rotation with Romeo, Christian, and Jaden. And look, this is just another practice, so it's possible this was a heavier rotation in another direction, but at the same time, I think it's probably safe to say, I mean, if you've got 3 receivers, who are your top 3? You know Jaden's going to be in the slot. You know Christian's going to be one of them because nobody does what he does. I think it's really just a contest between is it Wicks or is it Doubs. I think if I had to guess, a slim majority would probably pick Wicks as the better receiver. However, again, I think Romeo is our quarterback 1's wide receiver 1. And so I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen. No doubt in my mind that Wicks is going to play a relatively large part in the offense, but is he going to be the top 3? Is he going to surpass Romeo Doubs or Watson or Reed? I just don't think so. Maybe, but I don't think so. But finally, I think the absolute highlight of the day was a young youth football player caught 3 punts. And I don't mean 3 like just generally, and I don't mean 3 one after the other. I mean he caught 3 while holding the previous football. So he caught 1, held onto it, caught a second one, held both footballs, and then caught a third. It's incredible when you look at it and realize how huge these footballs are compared to this kid. But beyond that, Jair did it. He caught 2. So this little boy caught more than Jair was able to get simultaneously. Now, granted, all these guys got several attempts. I'm sure if Jair got multiple attempts, but still, whatever. Jaden Reed also, by the way, 6. I voted against him after that second one. I saw him fumbling with the 2 footballs. I said he's not going to get a third either. He gets the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, and the 6th. And then he didn't even really drop it on the net. He seems like he almost let go of one of the footballs, didn't realize he couldn't just do that. And that Rich Bisaccia's like, nope, you just messed up, dude. You're done now. But anyways, that was a fun drill. It's a lot of fun. The entire team mobbed him after he caught that kid. I mean, that 3rd punt. So that was such a cool experience for him and for his family. Just a fun atmosphere. Seeing all the kids out there having fun. I don't know why I couldn't find the show on local TV, so I didn't really get to watch a lot of the fireworks. We couldn't pull it up on the TV, and the live stream seemed to end almost right away. I mean, before the fireworks really even got going. But it's usually, anyways, a very cool sight seeing all the coaches and their families and everything, and the players and their families out on the field watching the fireworks and the laser show. It's a fun experience. It's a really cool environment, and aside from a little mini almost skirmish, it's a very family friendly and fun environment, I guess. Glad the Packers do it. I'm glad that they do it the way they. I think Matt LaFleur also, final thought, has done a very, very good job. I know McCarthy at some point was like, enough is enough, and we went into basically just like practice, but it was like nothing. Matt LaFleur started to go in the other direction. We now have some live tackling back. We've got thump periods. We've got a lot more actual stuff for people to observe, as opposed to let's just set up 10 stations and let guys practice for a while and then do fireworks. On top of that, we've started to get more and more kids involved. Again, they're out there throwing passes. They had kids trying to throw into the nets. I don't really remember that before. I do remember the trying to catch punts thing. They also had kids kicking field goals. So it's I can't really think of too many notes in terms of if I had to critique it. The only real issue seems to be that the production crew is a little bit lacking. Sometimes there's a little bit of confusion on who needs to be where and constantly cutting away to commercial at the absolute worst possible time. Like I said, probably the biggest highlight in terms of play on the field was back-to-back touchdowns to Romeo Doubs, and they kept cutting away. They didn't, when they went to commercial break, Packers.com couldn't just keep showing it, so they had to just zoom out. So they were outside of the stadium, and they showed that. So you could just hear the roar of the crowd as something was happening, but you weren't able to actually watch it. So there was that. There was some confusion. We were watching for about 5 minutes, and then there's no announcers, and then they chime in. They're like, okay, we're back. It's like, bro, we've been here the whole time. I don't know what you're talking about. But, again, very and by the way, Larry McCarron and Wayne Larrivee are the absolute... It is beyond a privilege to be able to listen to them. As much as I loved the John Madden days, I don't know if you can beat Wayne Larrivee and Larry McCarron. I mean, it is football, man. Even as a kid, listening to their voices on the radio, it's been the same voices since forever, and it's on TV, it's on the radio. They're an absolute joy to listen to, and then, when they're doing Packers Family Night and you hear them announcing the thing, they're just having such a good time. You feel like you've got your grandpa hanging out with his buddy in the booth just talking football. It's just, I don't know. It's such a fun and cool group of guys to have covering the Packers, and hopefully they can do it for as long as I'm alive somehow. All right, why don't we take our first break, and I think we'll look at the kickoff. We'll see. We'll be right back. US Cellular has noticed the way we use our phones has gotten ironic. We try to put our phones down for dinner, but the menu's on a QR code. That's ironic. We hit like on social posts that we don't actually like, which is ironic. Which is why US Cellular created Us Mode, to help us reconnect with each other and use our phones less ironically. A phone company wanting people to use their phones less is ironic. Let's find us again with Us Mode from US Cellular. Visit uscellular.com/built-for-us to get started.
Hey, it's Kaylee Cuoco for Priceline. Ready to go to your happy place for a happy price? Well, why didn't you say so? Just download the Priceline app right now and save up to 60% on hotels. So whether it's Cousin Kevin's Kazoo Concert in Kansas City, go Kevin, or Becky's Bachelorette Bash in Bermuda, you never have to miss a trip ever again. So download the Priceline app today. Your savings are waiting.
Go to your happy place for a happy price. Go to your happy price, Priceline.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be.
Want to teach your kids financial literacy, but not sure where to start? Greenlight can help. With Greenlight, parents can keep an eye on kids' spending and saving, while kids and teens use a card of their own to build money confidence. As a parent, you can send instant money transfers, set up chores, automate allowance, and more. It's a convenient way to run your household, customized to your family's needs, and the easy way to raise financially smart kids. Get started with Greenlight today and get your first month free at greenlight.com/Spotify.
Tell you what, let's do this first. There's a little bit of news and notesy here stuff I want to get through. First of all, Jordan Addison likely to receive a 3-game suspension for his off-the-field incident. It's also being reported, I don't know how true it is, but apparently according to the Star Tribune, if something like this happens again, Minnesota would get rid of him. So, not great for Jordan Addison. He's, I think, expected by many Vikings fans to be a big part of their future. Obviously, they got Justin Jefferson. You're looking for that solid number 2 option. Addison had a pretty decent rookie year. Not elite, but not bad for a rookie. And obviously, if he was able to take a big jump, and then if you can get JJ to come into being a good quarterback by next year, you could have something going here. But they're just absolutely going in the wrong direction at every single possible turn, and Addison just not making some super good decisions. The suspension is going to cost Addison around $200,000. In addition, we all know the Vikings secondary has taken several blows. Obviously, there was the tragedy that took place, but there's also several injuries. They now apparently have Jay Ward, who is a safety, playing some corner snaps, largely because they just don't have enough bodies. I mean, they're running out of guys to play corner right now. So the not super great season for the Vikings continues to get worse. And again, we'll see what happens. I want to see some of these guys play, and we got to try to sort some things out with that. They're as hard to figure out as any team in the NFC North, but it just doesn't look promising to me, even in the future. I mean, best case scenario, J.J. McCarthy's a stud, but how much better is he going to be than Kirk Cousins was? And on top of that, there's still a lot of questions for this team. I'm just becoming less and less convinced between the bad decisions and the bad luck that things are going to fall the right way. And this completely ignores the possibility that J.J. McCarthy is just a pile of crap, which is very possible. It just is. So we'll see, but I don't know, man. There's not a lot here. In other news, quarterback Justin Herbert dealing with a foot injury. It's going to sideline him for the coming weeks. The team is expecting him to be ready for Week 1 versus the Raiders. Definitely something to keep an eye on, though, if you're looking for a sneaky bet to make. Chargers are already kind of on the downswing as far as their ability to win football games. If Herbert doesn't play, as bad as the Raiders are, you pretty much put that one in ink. That's a good bet. There was a big update on this $4.7 billion lawsuit brought against the NFL and Sunday Ticket. On August 1st, Judge Philip Gutierrez overturned the jury's $4.7 billion verdict. He ruled that the testimonies of the plaintiff's two key economic experts, Dr. Daniel Rasher and Dr. John Zona, were methodologically flawed and should not have been considered by the jury. Gutierrez stated that without these testimonies, no reasonable jury could have found class-wide injury or damage. In his 16-page ruling, Judge Gutierrez pointed out several issues. Flawed methodologies. The economic models presented by Rasher and Zona were criticized for lacking a sound economic foundation. Incredible. Two economics experts, and the judge has to throw it out because they don't have sound economic foundation. Go figure. Rasher's comparisons to college sports distribution models and Zona's assumptions about alternative distributors were deemed speculative and unsupported. Also, the jury's calculation of damages. The jury's method of calculating damages deviated from the instructions provided and relied on unsubstantiated inputs, leading to an irrational damages award. So basically, there's a whole bunch of stupid crap in here, and the judge says, based on all the stupid crap, this thing is just getting thrown out. Now, this is expected to be appealed, which makes sense when you're talking about this sum of money. But as I said, this whole thing is stupid. The silent, voiceless victims or whatever nonsense, that whole narrative is absolutely stupid. And it really just took one judge to look at this thing and say, this is garbage, and throw the whole thing out. So you can go ahead and appeal it all you want. This is stupid, and it's not a thing, and you just need to knock it off, would be the recommendation. Nice try, you morons. As for the Hall of Fame, Devin Hester got his gold jacket. I didn't even know that was around the corner, but I saw that recently. I am in the pro Devin Hester in the Hall of Fame category. I know some people disagree with that, but I stand by my definition, not mine, but the definition of the Hall of Fame, which is the Hall of Fame should be reserved for people that change the game. And there are a lot of people that contributed more value to their teams that were mediocre quarterbacks that I don't think belong in the Hall of Fame compared to what Devin Hester was able to do at that position. It's not even a question. I would rather have guys like Hester, and that includes punters and kickers and everybody else that played at a level that had never been seen and may never be seen again, Those people belong immediately in first ballot, Hall of Fame, no questions asked. And let's save the 30th best quarterback of all time. Maybe can go to the back of the line. I'm just saying. And then apparently at the Morgan Wallen, I don't know how you say his name, the country singer guy. Apparently at that concert, there was a man arrested for making terroristic threats and threatening to shoot Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I have no idea if those guys are even there, but for whatever reason, he said he was going to shoot those guys, and he ended up getting arrested at the concert. So we are healing as a nation, as you can tell. Things continue to get better every day. And then some Packers news. Jordan Love made the top 100 list after his first year, the NFL's top 100 list voted on by players and whatnot. He came in at number 34. I don't necessarily see anything wrong with that, especially given the slow start and a lot of the speculation about, well, he didn't show enough and he didn't do this or that. For the players to come in and put him in the top 50, top 40, pretty good for first year. Christian Watson okay after a frightening collision during Packers family night, so there was an issue yesterday. Jordan Love threw an absolute, probably not very smart to throw it at family night, but just an absolute perfect pass between two defenders. I think it was Bullard that kind of laid him out. He laid there for a minute, came running off, looked like he was holding his arm, kind of at his side. Hard to tell if it was his hand, his wrist, his arm. Some people speculated it might have been his ribs. He's kind of keeping his elbow in tight to his ribs or whatever. But it sounds like he's doing just fine. Matt LaFleur said, scary moment, just got to continue to educate these guys. I don't think it was malicious by any intent. Oh, it was Evan Williams. Evan Williams was trying to make a play on the ball, and those are the ones you worry about, those bang-bang plays down the field. I told him you just got to try to lay off it if you can. No lingering issues for Watson. Sounds like he's doing just fine. Additionally, it sounds like Zach Tom will be back, so he did not participate in team drills for Packers Family Night. Has not this entire year. He's been doing individual stuff, and then he gets pulled. Sounds like by the time we see them next, he will be a full go, if I'm not mistaken, from the comments made by Matt LaFleur. Tucker Kraft, not as much. The comment was, Kraft isn't far behind. LaFleur said he's hopeful the second-year tight end will be activated from the PUP list and make his training camp debut this coming week in some capacity, but we'll see how that goes. So, we're talking about remove him from PUP. Then you probably have some of the individual stuff, but not team, before he actually gets back to team, and that's maybe this week, but we'll see. So we've got a little bit more time with Tucker Kraft. But again, Zach Tom sounds like he's full go, ready to come on back to work. And then final note here, Ken Ingalls posted a couple little updates, things that he observed about Jordan Love's contract. He says, some details in Jordan Love's contract did not get a no trade or no tag, which I think makes sense. Guarantees subject to offset, 84.375% participation earn workout bonuses, auto conversion rights, $74.8 million insurance policy against injury and death, mandated appearances, signed memorabilia, and website services. So a lot of this are some additional team-friendly situations. So not getting a no trade or no tag clause. So that's a little bit of extra bonus incentive for the Green Bay Packers. They are able to trade or tag him. The reason I say it's not super surprising is because it's a very low probability that any of those things will be happening in the future. You look at a trade. What are the scenarios that Jordan Love ends up getting traded? And the only one really is that he's quite bad, in which case, not to say you can't trade him, but it's not going to be for much. And then a tag is really, really unlikely, simply because, as I said, I don't see this contract being driven all the way out. And so he's going to get a new contract before the end of his contract. So there's not going to be a tag but it's still a little bit of incentive thrown the Packers' way to help the negotiations along. Guarantees being subject to offset. Essentially, if there is any kind of a trade or anything like that, some of the guarantees don't necessarily have to get paid. So again, that's a little bit more team-friendly. Very unlikely that a trade were to take place. I think that's why the Jordan Love's agent was throwing in some of these. It's additional security for the Packers, but I don't think Jordan Love and his team feel super worried that this is going to be a situation. I don't know all the details in terms of how much money we're talking about, but if he is released or signs with another team, then some of that money that is owed to Jordan does not necessarily have to get paid. Again, don't know exactly the details. 84.37% participation earn workout bonuses. That essentially just lays out the criteria in order for him to earn workout bonuses, right? Almost all of these contracts have workout bonuses, but there are details in terms of what you're asked to do. So Jordan Love has to participate in 84-ish% of the team's workouts in order to get those bonuses. Auto conversion rights, another team-friendly thing, just allows the team to automatically convert part of Jordan Love's salary into a signing bonus, so they do not need Jordan Love's permission to do that. Again, usually not a big deal because the players almost never have an issue with it, because when they do that, essentially you're helping the team, but you're also just getting a big check, right? So some of that money that's sitting there, probably a lot of it or most of it is not guaranteed. The Packers are now guaranteeing it in the form of a check, right? It's guaranteed because it's going straight into your pocket. But either way, it allows the Packers some flexibility. They don't need to go to Jordan or his team or anything like that in order to convert some of it to bonuses. So if they need to, they just do it. The insurance policy of essentially $75 million, I don't really know the details of that. I mean, it's more or less self-explanatory that he has a $75 million insurance policy. I don't know how that works, though. I don't know if that is, I mean, it's specifically a part of the contract, so I would assume at the very least it is the Packers are paying for an insurance policy for Jordan. It's as a sort of a benefits package, I guess. That would be my best guess. I don't really know. If it was just Jordan having his own separate policy, it wouldn't be discussed as a part of the contract. And the Packers, I doubt this is essentially the Packers just guaranteeing something because it specifically says insurance policy. So that would be my assumption, that the Packers, in addition to this, are paying for an insurance policy for Jordan Love. And then the mandated appearances, signed memorabilia, and website services, also relatively self-explanatory as a part of this. If the Packers have something that they want him to be at, we have a Packers event, I want you to be there. We want you to sign this, that, or the other for some event that we're doing, then I'm sure there are stipulations. It's not like any time we ask you have to do it, but they just want to make sure that Jordan Love is a part of. We're paying you to be the face of the franchise. And so, if need be, we want to be able to mandate you to be the face of the franchise. So obviously, appearances are pretty self-explanatory. Signed memorabilia, pretty self-explanatory. The website services, more or less, I'm guessing this would be things like possibly online interactions, social media platform, things like that, and they take the camera and they're, hey, Packer fans, it's Jordan Love, that kind of stuff. That would be my guess, is just making sure that you can't just ghost us now, which I think makes sense. And there's stipulations, I'm sure, inside of the contract that regulate how much we're talking about here. But I understand the spirit of it, saying, again, we're paying you to be the face of the franchise. We need to make sure that you're living up to that. All right, why don't we take our final break? When we come back, I want to look at the kickoff thing that I said we were going to do this last time. But it's actually a pretty cool video. You can find it on social medias if you want. Saints special teams coordinator Darren Rizzi, along with the Chicago Bears. Let's see, who else do we have here? The Chicago Bears special teams coordinator Richard Hightower, John Fassel, the special teams coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys, and Troy Vincent Sr., who is the NFL Executive Vice President of Football Operations. So a lot of brain power there as far as if you want an expert to explain this thing to you. But Darren Rizzi specifically walks through a lot of this stuff, so I figured we'll go through it, let him kind of explain it, and I'll give my thoughts on it.
School is back, and Dick's Sporting Goods has what you need to win your year. We've got everything from cleats to Sambas, Dunks, and more. Plus, the hottest looks from Nike, Jordan, and Adidas. Find your first day fits in-store or online at Dicks.com.
When it comes to towing, seeing is believing. That's why Chevy Truck's advanced camera technology offers up to 8 available cameras for 14 unique views, so you can focus on the view that really matters. Chevrolet, together let's drive. Learn more about Chevy Trucks at Chevy.com. Safety or driver assistance features are no substitute for the driver's responsibility to operate the vehicle in a safe manner. Read the Vehicle Owner's Manual for important feature limitations and information.
All right, without further ado, let's just let Darren Rizzi speak a little bit. Again, it's good to get a little bit of a refresher, but also maybe dig a little bit deeper into the new kickoff rules from one of the top special teams coordinators in the NFL, Darren Rizzi.
I think the best way to explain it to the fans and everyone that really doesn't fully grasp the play yet, if you can imagine the previous kickoff, the kickoff we've been doing for a long, long time, and then really in a condensed version. So basically we walk the kickoff team up to the 40-yard line. And quite frankly, that's how we practice this play as special teams coaches for many, many years. So the coaches and the players are actually more used to it than you think. So the kickoff team is up there on the 40-yard line. The setup zone for the return team is between the 30 and the 35. There has to be 9 players up there. 7 of those guys have to be up on the 35 with a foot on the line. And basically, once the ball's kicked by the kicker, now the kicker is going to be back.
All right, so just as a visual, because I'm looking at it and it's harder to understand just listening to a guy say it. You've got the kicker at, for example, your own 35-yard line. On the opposite side of the field where the ball is getting kicked, that's where everybody else is. The only guy on the kicker's side of the field is the kicker. Everybody else is on the other side of the field. Now, Rizzi says they've got 2 returners. I don't know what everybody's going to be doing, but they're using 2 returners back. I believe he says you have to have 9 on the line, so you can only have 2 back. But on the other side of the field where everybody else is, you got your 2 returners back by the goal line. You have their 9 blockers up on the line, at least 9, so it would be between 9 and 10. I believe is the rule. He's going to clarify that in a second. And then every other person is up on the 40-yard line. And so essentially there's 2 other little nuanced things here. I believe every one of the kick coverage unit is on the 40, right? So this is the opposite 40. And they have to be on the line, like toe on the line. The other unit is between the 30 and 35 is the setup zone. So there's a 5-yard kind of buffer where you can be at. But that's the setup. So you got the 35-yard line where the kicker is. Then you got the rest of his team at the 40. Then between the 30 and 35 are 9 players. And then you've got the returner all the way back. Right, so these guys are between 5 and 10 yards apart. It looks like most of them are going to be right at the 35, so 5 yards apart is the general setup that we're going to be seeing from now at least until the end of the year.
Where he normally has been. He's been back there on the 35-yard line. And when that ball goes in the air, everybody, the kickoff team and the kickoff guy, the return team in the setup zone, they're all going to be stationary until the ball is touched, either by the ground or the returner. Once that ball is touched, the play gets going, the play gets started. And
so that's the first thing. Pretty self-explanatory, but there's a bunch of additional rules, and it kind of goes into the strategy of it. Number one is as soon as the ball is touched, and he says either by a player or the ground. So there's going to be some question as to how do you handle some of these things as far as do you even let the ball hit the ground and roll, like possibly into the end zone? Well, there's some nuance to that as well, but also you got to remember that as soon as it hits the ground, that's when the other guys are going to start coming at you and coming downhill. So there's a lot of strategizing going to be going into this.
We're going to have 2 returners back there to back there in what we're calling the landing zone. And the only really new rule for the fans that they really got to get used to is the different touchback rules. The touchback rule previously, if the ball would come out to the 25. Now, if the ball goes in the end zone, and the returner downs it or it gets kicked through the end zone, the ball's going to come out to the 30-yard line. If the ball hits in the landing zone and rolls through the end zone or into the end zone and is downed, now it's coming to the 20. And the reason for that is to promote and create more returns.
Yeah, so All right, that was the end of it. But that's pretty self-explanatory in terms of, again, the NFL wants more returns, which is a good thing, right? Rather than just being stupid and saying, well, we want to stop injuries, so let's just stop having football plays. They got creative. How can we actually increase football and decrease injuries, right? But the thought process was, well, number one, let's make it worse for a kicker to kick it straight out of the end zone or into the end zone. Because if you do that, now the other team gets it at the 30. Well, of course, somebody probably piped up at some point. This might have even been at the XFL level, but at some point said, well, okay, but if it's that beneficial, then even if we kick it short, the person's not going to touch it. They're going to let it roll into the end zone so they can get it at the 30. They said, okay, fine. If it touches outside of the end zone and is allowed to roll into the end zone, you get it at the 20. So then the onus is on the returner to make sure that doesn't happen. In other words, if it gets kicked and hits the ground and rolls in, it might be worth your while to go back there, grab it, and still try to return it. Otherwise, you're sticking it at the 30. The only thing that I would say, and I want to see this executed by more teams, I only watched the one kickoff by the Bears, and the guy did get smoked pretty early. But watching the Packers do it, I noticed that pretty much every single return, there was no tackling, but you certainly got the impression that every single return was going to probably make it to at least the 30. And, again, maybe that's just poor special teams play on our part. Maybe it's just a lack of full-go energy, just chasing these guys down. But you really just got the impression that all of these are just going to make it out there anyways. And so my general thought was, I don't know how much of this is going to be disincentivizing kickers to kick it out of the end zone. Because certainly you wouldn't want to do it if the rule change just was by itself, but we were still doing the old kickoffs, because that's way too far out. You were just barely trying to get it to the 25 before. Now, if you've got as a general rule, guys are kicking it out to returning it to the 30-35, if that's sort of the norm where, guys are bringing it out to about the 30 on average, but then you got guys like Keyshawn where best case scenario, you stop them at the 30. Let's say somewhere between the 25 and the 40 is standard for him, but he's also ripping things out to the 50 on a regular basis. I'm just saying, hypothetically, you're still going to see touchbacks. You're going to see kickers and whatnot saying, no, screw that. Let's kick it out of the end zone. We'll just give it to him at the 30. So my thought was, I think what we're just going to see is a lot more scoring because, in the past, we saw a ton of, what did teams do? They would kick it down to about the 5-yard line. And a lot of times these guys would get stuck at the 10, 15, 20-yard line. And again, if you could just get back to the 25, you did a good job. It's hard to score when you start that far behind. If the new starting position goes from, let's say the 20 to the 30, that's going to significantly increase the amount of scoring that is going to be. Now, again, I could be wrong. Maybe teams aren't generally going to get out that far, and it was just kind of a family night, half-speed kind of a deal that made it appear that way. But, if that is the case, and teams are routinely returning it and routinely getting out to the 30, 40, 50-yard line, I think there's going to be a massive scoring boom because the best that teams can do then is to regularly kick the ball out of the end zone, and you're still giving guys more yardage than they would have gotten before. You're pushing them further out, which is going to, even if it's in a minor sense, it is going to lead to more scoring, more points. So all that is a positive for the NFL that wants more returns, more action, and more scoring. So I genuinely think either way you slice it, the NFL wins this thing because this is going to be a big benefit for them. Anyways, there's some other little topics and videos and stuff I wanted to go over, but why don't we leave it at that for today? We can come back and take a look at some more stuff a little bit later. But again, we've got a little bit more or a little bit less action going on, but a little bit more fun action. So we've only got 2 instead of 3 trading camps at a go. So instead of 3 one day off, then 3 again, it's more or less 2 days off and then a game and then 2 days off. So 3 instead of 6 times per week we get to see the team, but it's going to be a lot more fun. So fingers crossed that everybody stays healthy, and we'll be planning on doing some more live streams for the games and whatnot. So I look forward to hanging out with you guys there. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
In the neon light.